Oh, man, she's lost it. She's totally lost it. It's gone. It's over. I'm not even talking about the election. I mean, I am talking about that too. It's like a double entendre. Kamala Harris has lost the election, and she's totally lost it inside her cabeza. I don't know if you saw what happened yesterday with Maria Shriver and Liz Cheney, but holy cow. Today, Kamala Harris is not doing any campaign events. Kamala Harris is taking the day off. They call it taking the day off. They call it not doing any campaign events, but really it's recuperating. It's sobering up, as some of us like to call it. What's up? This is Mark Kaye, Saves the Republic, and we are getting so close. We are getting so close. Every single day, we inch closer and closer to the day when we get to find out what the results are, although probably not really, and see if we've been able to do it after all this battling and fighting and talking and inspiring and getting out there, to change people's minds and explain to them what the reality is and fight back against the fake news media and the Democrat Party and the socialists who seek to destroy the United States of America after years and years, day in and day out of fighting. We finally get to save the Republic on November the 5th. Although today in Wisconsin, the early vote is starting. And the early vote has started in places all over the country. Florida early voting has started. Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Texas. Look at what's going on in Texas yesterday, the first day of early voting.
Wow, what an incredible experience. I just cast my ballot on the first day of early voting here in Texas, and it just opened up. I mean, the line is huge. It's literally wrapped all the way down the street. There's not even any parking. So this was an absolutely incredible experience.
That's going on in Texas, but it's not the only place. There's also early voting in North Carolina, and check out what happened in North Carolina.
I live in North Carolina, and I went to vote after work today. I got there at 6:45 p.m., and I waited an hour. They had to have election workers go outside and stop more people from getting in line because their polls are supposed to close at 7:30. People are voting.
This is what's really exciting. Early voting in the old days of early voting, meaning the last time around, a lot of people would go early vote to avoid the crowds. They didn't want to get crushed by the rush on election day. They thought, you know what? I got to get to work. I'll go on my lunch break, whatever. But now the opposite is true. Everybody is so ready for the change. They're ready to get Joe Biden out of office. They're ready to kick Kamala Harris to the curb finally, and they're ready to reinstate Donald Trump. They want the Republican Party back in charge. They want conservatism. They want American greatness. They want common sense back in the White House. They want to shut down the border, kick out all the illegals. They want to drill, baby drill. They want to be able to afford groceries and a trip to McDonald's. They want all of that. And they don't care what's going on with NATO. They don't care what NATO says. They don't care if Ukraine needs more money. We're not just going to dole it out anymore. There is a huge shift in the United States of America. People understand what's really going on. They understand what's really happening in Washington, D.C., and they finally see that Donald Trump was the only person who tried to make a change, who tried to change your life for the better while getting rid of all the corrupt criminals in Washington, D.C., who were trying to take advantage of you and your family and pull the wool over your eyes. And the worst part is, while they were doing that, they were trying to tell you, no, it's Donald Trump and the Republicans. They're the bad ones. They're the ones that want to take advantage of you. But we now know that's not true. And we know that's not true because the early voting lines in all of these states are through the roof, and Republican turnout is incredible. Republican turnout in Florida for the first day of early voting, which was yesterday, 2-1. Republican to Democrat, 2-1 Republican to Democrat here in the state of Florida. And the Democrat, they're panicking. They're panicking. They're off their, I mean, they can't even believe it. There is so much panic in the Democrat Party today. They not only don't have the enthusiasm, they don't have the agenda, they don't have the support of their typical voting blocs, Black American voters, Latino American voters, suburban moms, and nobody really, let's be honest, nobody really likes Kamala. Oh, except for these girls.
Trump or Kamala?
Kamala.
Kamala.
Okay, and why?
Because she's cool.
That's what my parents told me.
Not a felon either, so we'll take our wins where we can.
Yeah.
Is there anything you like about her, like her policies or?
Our political science roommate's really big on her.
So we stand with her.
So you got that loyalty with your roommate?
Yes.
Yes. She's protecting women's rights. So
yes.
Real big on that one.
And she's trying to make gun safety stuff.
So basically you want to be able to kill your own kid?
Yeah. Get rid of it.
I think it's my choice.
Yeah,
if I don't want a kid, I'd rather kill it than have it live a miserable life.
You guys believe in God?
No.
In some way, sure.
And what about Trump? Do you dislike him?
No.
He's pretty funny.
He is. I repost all the funny moments.
All right, you should vote for him.
No, thank you.
I'll have to ask my roommate on that one.
You know, this is why it's really important to know who your kid's college roommate is, because it could change the entire scope of the United States of America. These girls are like, you know what? Kamala's going to give us the ability to abort our babies, because why would we want to have a baby and let them grow up in a miserable life? Plus, my political science roommate says to vote for Kamala Harris. Well, if your political science roommate says that, then by all means, gun safety stuff. That's what Kamala Harris wants. That, by the way, that's from a young man named Will Purvis. Will Purvis, who's one of those Gen Z live streamers who's really just dedicated their last couple of months of their lives to helping support Donald Trump and conservatism. So, like I said, there's hope for the future, folks. There's hope for the future, not those girls. Those girls are totally hopeless. But the rest, everybody else, look, and it just goes to show, he asked a great question there. Will Purvis says, after all this talk about abortion and killing your babies and your roommate and who's a political science major, he goes, do you believe in God? They say no. And one of them goes, kind of. And that's one of the big issues we have today with this election. This has really become an election between God and the devil. It's become an election between good and the worst kind of evil we've ever seen crawl around on this earth. And not mine. I'm not saying that. Everybody's saying. You can look around. You can look around at Kamala Harris, who doesn't like Catholics, skip the Al Smith dinner. Kamala Harris, who's out there making fun of pretty much every religious group. She doesn't like the Jewish people. She's not supporting Israel. She passed over Josh Shapiro as her vice presidential candidate for Tim Walz. And it's really kind of insane, the disrespect that these people have shown to almost every major religious group, but especially Jewish people, especially Catholic people, especially Christians. The fundamentalists are going to be next. In fact, Donald Trump was speaking yesterday, and he said he's become a very religious man in the past few years, especially, after almost getting shot.
But as I look back at my life's journey and events, I now recognize that it's been the hand of God leading me to where I am today.
Yay!
Thank you.
Yay, hand of God! Yay, God! Yay! Woo! We love the hand of God leading Trump where he is today.
And my faith took on new meaning on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, where I was knocked to the ground, essentially, by what seemed like a supernatural hand. And I would like to think that God saved me for a purpose, and that's to make our country greater than ever before.
Look at that. Yeah. Look at that. And that is exactly what this boils down to. It's in all these different aspects, in all these different various forms. We've seen what the Democrat Party has just glommed onto, what they've accepted as their platform: abortion. That's their whole platform. That's all they've got. Elizabeth Warren yesterday was asked about the economy, and her answer was, let's talk about abortion, because that's way more important than whether or not you have money in your pocket, but whether or not you can get rid of the baby in your womb. And that's why they're losing so badly. They're losing across the board. And that's why Kamala Harris is losing it. Totally losing it. I'm going to play with you clips from this event she did yesterday. Her mind is gone. Just poof. The only thing that is in more disarray than Kamala Harris's cerebellum is her campaign right now. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And that's probably why she's taking the day off, which is, we're 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. We have 14 days to go. 14 days to go. This is when you ramp up your campaign. This is when you finish strong. And the fact that Kamala Harris is doing nothing today, nothing. She's not in North Carolina. She's not in Wisconsin. She's nowhere. She's doing an NBC interview later this evening, but that's it. Early voting begins in Wisconsin today. Wisconsin, with 10 electoral votes, a very important swing state, one that people have going to Donald Trump now, when it used to be a solidly part of the blue wall, as they call it. And Kamala Harris is avoiding it like the plague. She's sending Tim Walz How insulting is that? If I were in Wisconsin and it was the first day of early voting and Kamala Harris was like, I'm tired, I'm sending Tampon Tim, I'd be like, oh, hell no, you didn't. No, you didn't. I'm good. That's it. Give me that ballot. I'm voting for Trump. Send Tampon Tim Walz my way. You can't campaign in Wisconsin? What's wrong? You think those holes in our cheese heads are real? We know exactly what's up. We know exactly what's up. That's why Donald Trump, I predict, will win Wisconsin. Because Kamala Harris is not, I don't know if they say she's exhausted. I think there's another explanation. Kamala Harris did this event yesterday. It was a weird event. Kamala Harris decided to sit down with Liz Cheney, daughter of Dick, and Maria Shriver for this town hall with a very, very just bored or angry or distraught looking crowd. And they started it off by talking about taking drugs.
You know, everybody I talk to says, you know, I have to turn off the news. I can't read anything. I'm meditating. I'm doing yoga. I'm so anxious. I just don't even know. I'm eating gummies, all kinds of things, you know. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Not eating gummies.
That is, although, what she said was, I'm not eating gummies, although I don't know if that's 100% accurate. Maybe she's not eating gummies, but there's something that she's ingesting, either in liquid form or smoke form. Something's going on with her because her behavior during this entire thing was just, well, I'm going to be honest with you. It reminded me of somebody who's been eating gummies. You know, it's been a long time since I've been hanging out with some gummy eating stoners, but I recall whenever somebody in college walked in and they had that, that odor, that, whoa, what have you, the smoke was just kind of lingering around their head. They talked a lot like Kamala Harris talks. So she wasn't eating gummies, but then she said this.
We have to tap into and rejoice, frankly, in the spirit of who we are as Americans. And we are an ambitious people. We have aspirations. We have dreams. We are optimistic by nature. And we, I think, value certain qualities in our leaders.
I mean, that's how stoners talk, isn't it? Hey, man, we got aspirations, we got dreams, right? We got dreams, man. I think she was quoting a Cheech and Chong movie at one point. Hey, man, I got aspirations and dreams, man. We're an optimistic people. We're an optimistic people, man. Right on. I feel like I was watching a Cheech and Chong film starring Kamala Harris, and maybe she wandered into their van or something. And like when they're driving the van made of marijuana and it's burning, and the cop walks up and instead of saying, "Can I see your your license and registration?" he goes, "Can I have a bite of your hot dog?" That was a great movie. But I digress. Kamala Harris, something's going on because she then went on to misquote a very popular quote by Harry Truman.
There was a time when there was a phrase that I'll paraphrase that basically politics ends at the sea line, at the boundaries of our country. That there are certain things, in particular matters of national security, where it's not about partisanship. It's about where should America stand.
Okay, it's not even the quote. First of all, it's a quote from Harry Truman. It's not an old saying. Harry Truman, when they were talking about the Vandenberg Treaty and basically laying the foundation for NATO and allowing the United States to become part of this massive and very expensive conglomeration of countries that were going to beat back the threat from Eastern Europe and communism, basically he said partisanship should stop at the water's edge, meaning when we get to the border of the United States of America, everybody is on the same page. When we get to the border and we start talking about Europe and NATO and all these other countries, then Democrats and Republicans, we're all in this together. And I don't know what she's mumbling about at the edge of the sea. Did she say under the sea? Was she quoting Sebastian from Ariel, from the Little Mermaid? Is that what it was?
There was a time when there was a phrase that I'll paraphrase that basically politics ends at the sea line, at the boundaries of our country. That there are certain things, in particular matters of national security, where it's not about partisanship. It's about where should America stand.
Oh, it ends at the sea lion. That's Tim Walz, right? He's a sea lion, because he always does this. That's her quote for Tim Walz. Is they call him Sea Lion Walls. They call him Tampa. He's got so many nicknames. Low T Tim, Tampon Tim, Sea Lion Tim. There's so many of them. Listen, before I get to the next clip, I should remind you to subscribe to this channel because I forgot to do it earlier. And if you're enjoying this show, if you love this country, if you want to protect this country, if you want the information and the entertainment that's going to keep you going, if you, for the next 14 days, want to hear the truth about what's actually going on with this election, the truth about what's actually going on with the campaigns of the two candidates, the truth about who's going to help you help yourself for the rest of your life and set your family and your finances up for success. If you want all of that, then it's really easy. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the notification, hit the ding-a-ling. Tell whatever podcasting platform you're listening to, I want to listen to this podcast every single day because as we grow our group of patriotic Americans, as we get those liberty-loving, freedom-defending patriots to download and consume this content every single day, as we grow our channels and our networks, we also grow our influence. And if we can influence more and more Americans to embrace the ideas of American exceptionalism and the Constitution and Christianity and common sense, then we will save the republic. And that's all we want to do. You know, that's it. We don't ask much. We're not asking for Mercedes Benzes. We just want to save our republic from the evilness of the far left. All right, so she's misquoting Truman. She's talking about her optimism. She's claiming she doesn't actually eat gummies, but then she says this.
And that we debate it out, have good vigorous debates, have a good fight over policy.
I mean, what explain this behavior to me. Somebody explain it to me. Explain this behavior to me. This is not the behavior of a woman who wants to be the next president of the United States of America. This is the behavior of a woman who stumbled out of mom's, happy hour. It was like mom's night out, and she stumbles home, and Doug's sitting there, in his nightgown saying, "How'd it go, Kamala?" And she goes, "Oh, but
and that we debate it out, have good vigorous debates, have a good fight over policy." That's good for democracy.
I mean, she's slurring her words, isn't she? I mean, it's a good fight over democracy, over policy. That she said something about insulation too, which I totally didn't get. And all I could think about, as I'm sure the people in the audience were thinking, is what in the world is she A, on, and B, talking about?
Isolationism, which is exactly what Donald Trump is pushing, abandon our friends. Isolationism is not insulation. It is not insulation. It will not insulate us.
Got that? Isolation is not insulation. It will not insulate us.
It is not insulation. It will not insulate us.
Insulate us. Again, with the slurring of something is going, there's an excessive amount of slobber building up in her mouth. Her tongue's not really working the way that it should be working. All of those, I believe, are byproducts of some kind of illicit substance being consumed, within hours of taking the stage there. It was the weirdest thing ever. It continued over and over and over and over again. And she ended with, again, what seems like just a drunken diatribe from one of your college friends who's having a moment,
Let me, if I can just speak to what people are feeling. We cannot despair. We cannot despair. The nature of a democracy is such that I think there's a duality. On the one hand, there's an incredible strength when our democracy is intact. An incredible strength in what it does to protect the freedoms and rights of its people. Oh, there's great strength in that. And it is very fragile. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. And so that's the moment we're in.
Okay, I have to pause here. Even Liz Cheney is sitting there at this moment going, WTF did I sign up for? Even Liz Cheney.
And I say,
hold on, daughter of Dick. Watch Liz Cheney for this next part here.
Despair, because in a democracy, as long as we can keep it in our democracy, the people, every individual has the power.
I mean, she's sitting there thinking, is it too late for the Republicans to take me back? Can I go beg Donald Trump for my job back? There's got to be something else I can do other than sit here and listen to this woman blabble on about how we're strong and our democracy's strong, and yet it's so fragile. We're strong and fragile at the same time. What is that all about? How is that going to get votes? Who's voting for that? Who's voting for strong but fragile? You know what I'm voting for? Strong no matter, period. Strong, period. That's it. The strongest, peace through strength. We don't want peace through strength / fragility. Nobody's going to buy into that. Nobody wants to. We can't walk into China or Russia or North Korea and say, listen, we're stronger than you. Also, we're very fragile, but mostly stronger. No one's going to respect that. That's not a commander in chief. That's not a chief executive. That's not a president. Hell, that's not even a vice president at this point. I don't even think that's a coherent person. That's Kamala Harris for you. And she's running for president. Not today. Today, she's taking a break, which may actually be good because early voting, look, the more Kamala Harris is off the campaign trail, the less she's in your face, the more she sends a really abrasive people like Tim Walz and Barack Obama out there to do her work for her, the better it may be. Because early voting is important. And in fact, we have a guest on, Elizabeth Pipko is going to join us here in like 2 minutes. And we're going to talk, she's from the RNC, and we're going to talk all about the importance of early voting and why early voting is like a thing and why early voting is going to win or lose this election this time around. In fact, I think she's ready. So excited to be joined from the RNC national spokesperson, Elizabeth Pipko, who was, I love this story, by the way. You were a model, decided you needed to work in a place where more people would stab their mothers in the back, so you got into politics.
That's exactly what happened. I actually went back and forth like 3 times. I went modeling, Trump campaign, back to modeling, back to politics, back to modeling, RNC national spokeswoman. So I can't get enough of both worlds.
You just want everyone to hate you? Is that what it is? I mean, how do you make that decision? That's amazing.
That's kind of what it feels like, right? Like everywhere I turn, someone's like, "You're doing something wrong, and you look really bad while you're doing it." So that's kind of what I'm used to at this point.
And as if that weren't enough, you went to Harvard too, which we'll get into all that here. And because the Democrats, they hate the Ivy League. They hate J.D. Vance because he went to Yale, apparently.
Right. Apparently, it's a problem now. It kind of just depends who Donald Trump picks and who they decide to hate on that very day. He can't keep up.
No,
honestly.
I know it is. Well, luckily, we won't have to keep up much longer. We are 2 weeks away from, it's Tuesday, and then there's next Tuesday, and the Tuesday after that. We are 2 weeks away from the election, and the big push, and I always love talking to people from the RNC because I get this question all the time. People say, Mark, why are you pushing early voting? Why should I early vote? What the Democrats early vote? Why are Republicans early voting? That's not how we win. Can you once again reiterate the importance of early voting, especially in this particular presidential campaign?
I certainly can, but first, I would just like to say everyone is clearly listening. We've done a good job because if everyone's been paying attention to numbers these last few days, we are severely outperforming 2020. It's really exciting. Democrats are a little bit nervous looking at those returns. I would be as well. But the fact is, on Election Day, we have to worry about spending our resources on low propensity voters, right? We have voters that we need to get out the vote that we need in order to win this election. So the goal is to make sure that everyone who's ready and willing to vote for Donald Trump banks that vote as early as they legally can so that we can focus those resources on those extra remaining voters who we need to get out on Election Day on November 5th. So anyone that has not voted yet, that's waiting to legally vote, please go ahead. Obviously, get excited. If you have voted, bring your friends, bring your relatives, bring your teacher, bring your dog walker, bring your neighbor, get them to bank that vote before Election Day. We need all the votes that we can get, obviously, to win this thing.
Yeah, and these low propensity voters, especially in these battleground states, those are folks who maybe registered Republican or have voted in the past but aren't as hyped as the rest of us for this election, correct? And that's where the resources are going on Election Day?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, every campaign has a get out the vote operation. People don't realize what goes into that. But the fact is, if you're excited and ready to vote for Donald Trump, we don't need you guys waiting to November 5th. You should get all that enthusiasm, get out, vote as soon as you legally can, and then wait and help us as we do the remaining work to win on November 5th, because you never know, by the way, what's going to happen on Election Day. You could have an illness, God forbid, an emergency with your family. Who knows? And that's that one last day you have to vote. So if you can vote before Election Day, we ask that you do that.
Let's not forget those pesky voting machines going down, or the water main breaks that just happen to pop up all over the very red districts in our country. The one thing I always hear too, and I'm sure you get it as well, is, but, I don't trust early voting. If I go vote today, then that just gives them 2 weeks to destroy my ballot, and I don't think it's going to get there in time. What do you tell people that are still in this mindset that Election Day is a day and not actually a month? like it has been now for the past couple of election cycles.
Look, I get it, right? It's confusing. It's strange. 2020 was incredibly confusing because of the virus that we had, the pandemic that took over our country and the world. I understand the concerns. And the last thing that we at the RNC want is for anyone to have concerns. We've done, I think, a very good job, especially these last couple of months, to make sure that we have kind of utilized every resource at our disposal to make sure that this is the safest election that it can be, to make sure everyone's vote is obviously legally counted, and to make sure that on November 6th, when you wake up, again, no matter who you voted for, left or right, you are confident in the election results, because that's what matters. So we ask you to kind of throw your support behind us, who have worked every single day to make sure the election is the free, fair election the American people deserve. But we're not doing this because, you know, we think you're crazy. We completely understand where you're coming from. This is not because Donald Trump said to fix election integrity. It's because the American people on both sides of the aisle, by the way, have problems and concerns when it comes to our election system, and we want to fight to make sure that they don't.
I like how you say, by the way, get out as early as you can legally vote, which is something you don't hear from the left. They just say get out and vote. They never say they leave out that word legally, which is kind of funny. And it's true. The RNC has been, and I know that there was a big shuffle up in March, and I know that there's new leadership, and I know that Lara Trump and Michael Wadley have been doing a fantastic job. I get emails Saturday, Sunday, Monday, where, you know, this interview we scheduled, I think it was like Sunday night at midnight. We were still going back and forth. It is around the clock for the next 2 weeks. It is, we will sleep on November 6th. It's one of those where everybody, no matter what level you're at in this campaign, has to get out there and vote. And like you said, inspire the rest of the people to vote, because we don't have a choice otherwise.
No, we really don't. America's on the line. I have obviously heard it every single election. I've only been able to vote in 2 legally, obviously. But
rub that in while you can.
Everything that matters is truly on the line. It's an incredibly important election. I don't think people realize as much until the day is over how much they actually could have done. So when we say we need your help, we mean it, right? We are doing as much work as we possibly can. I guarantee it. You're right. No one is sleeping over here, but we need your help too. So everyone listening, make sure that everyone you know, make sure that they're registered to vote. They can get out and vote legally, as you said, and they're doing the same in their neighborhoods and with their family and friends as well, because every single vote is going to count.
What happens on election day? I know that we've got a lot more lawyers. I know that the RNC hired like hundreds of thousands of lawyers, and I know that they've got poll workers where we didn't have poll workers. We've got poll watchers where we didn't have poll watchers. Are we concerned at all that there won't be enough eyes, or that there will be the ability for anything to go wrong, whether it's, you know, the chain of custody, or they stop the voting and then they pick it back up at 3 a.m, or there's ballots popping up in the trunks of people's cars like we saw here in Florida during our gubernatorial election?
I will say that we are very, very cautiously optimistic, but we're pretty confident in the fact that at least on election day, any concerns that we are alerted to, we will have enough staff, enough resources, whether it's lawyers or poll watchers or anything in between, making sure that they can address those issues. Like I said, we've worked tirelessly since this changeover that we've had at the RNC to make sure no one had issues on election day or afterwards when they saw the results and saw what happened. That's what matters to us. So yeah, we're excited for people to have a good day. We're excited for people to be excited to bank those votes, right? It's very exciting to get to vote. I'm excited to circle Donald Trump's name for the 3rd time in my life. I'm going to rub it in again. And I think for a lot of people, we want you to know that we're doing this because it matters to you, right? Yeah. That's why we're doing it. And we're very, very hopeful. But like you said, thousands of poll watchers, thousands of poll workers, lawyers, staff, everything in between. We are ready where we need to be ready in every single state, especially the swing states.
Yeah, we're having a live watch party here in Florida. And we're pretty secure here in Florida, but we're having a live watch party. And every single day, I get cautiously optimistic that the party's going to turn out the way we want. It's just, when's it going to turn out the way we want? I know we're going to have to shut up and go home at like 2 a.m. Hopefully we'll know at least something by then. In Pennsylvania, let's talk about that, because that is the keystone. It's the crux. We always say whoever wins Pennsylvania Avenue. And there's been a lot of weird things going on there. First of all, you're Jewish, and you are a big proponent for anti-Semitism here in this country. This whole thing with Josh Shapiro getting overlooked, and did that backfire, do you think, on the Kamala Harris campaign? Do you think that maybe was a mistake on their part to pick Tim Walz? I mean, that's a mistake. That's a mistake, clearly. But was that a bigger mistake?
I was going to say, yeah, apart from Josh Shapiro, that was quite the mistake. Yeah, look, it was strange to me when his name was announced. I'll be honest. I was pretty confident it was going to be Governor Shapiro.
Sure,
I was pretty pretty sure if it wasn't him, it would be Mark Kelly, right, from Arizona.
Yes.
Tim Walz's name, just no one really talked about it. No one heard about it. Now
Yeah.
I know why. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes in American political history. I think it's a very, very strange choice. Very often candidates want someone that kind of balances them out and makes them, appeal further to the middle. Kamala Harris found someone more left than her.
Yeah.
Someone who I guess the American people even knew less about than they did her, which I thought was strange as well. And now as people find out more and more about the both of them, they seem less and less confident in that ticket's ability to lead this country. So I think it's very strange. And I'll go back to the Jewish stuff that you mentioned.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that Shapiro was not picked because of his name, because of who he is, right? Let's not forget he's not just Jewish. The name Shapiro was a very Jewish last name. And I think for people like me, I just didn't even think twice about it. I'm a Jewish American. I grew up in New York City, surrounded by Jewish Americans. I never really thought anti-Semitism would reach the level that we've seen it in this country, especially this last year since October 7th. There's some days where I still am a little naive to things. I'll see them and not believe them because I truly can't believe that we're at this point.
Right.
I think a lot of Kamala Harris's actions and statements about Israel, about Netanyahu, the lack of response to anti-Semitism in the country. I mean, every day I'm surprised by things. But in my mind, Shapiro was the obvious choice. I actually think if you're looking at this just strategically, politically, he's a very good choice. He has a very high approval rating in a purple state. I don't know what else you can ask for. In Pennsylvania, like you said, that's the main state. I think his approval rating is 65% or so in Pennsylvania, which is the state that they need and that we need, and we all kind of know that. So it is very strange, and it's sad for me to realize the harsh reality, which is that he probably actually was not chosen because a good chunk of the left does not like Jewish people. I don't know what else there is to say, and I think to think that October 7th happened and had that kind of repercussion, I don't know if any of us would have really realized that last year, but it's incredibly strange and incredibly sad.
I'm Catholic, and I've known for a long time that the left despises Catholics. We know that she didn't go to the Al Smith dinner. We know that she's not a big fan of the Jewish community, even though she's married to a Jewish man, which is like when they say, oh, I'm not a racist, I have lots of black friends. But the fact of the matter is that I can't pinpoint a group of people that the left actually likes enough to cater to. In fact, they seem to be attacking everyone. Sure, the pro-Palestinian group, but look what happened in Hamtramck. The only Muslim mayor of a Muslim community just endorsed Donald Trump. So it is really weird and bizarre. Do you think that there's more Jewish conservatism popping up, or that there'll be more Jews for Trump this time around? Because that's always been kind of an interesting situation.
Yeah, before I answer that, I want to go back to what you just said. I have always said, at least in my short adult life, I've always said the Democrats kind of feel as though they need to appeal to whoever gets them votes. They don't actually know what they like, who they like, or what they stand for.
Correct,
it's very strange. I remember watching their convention and seeing they didn't put a Palestinian speaker on the stage. And I was confused, and I thought, oh, it's because that week it was better for polling to pretend that they were 100% with Israel. And it's very strange, the back and forth, because in the end they end up losing both sides, right? They have no idea what it is that they stand for, and they seem to decide what they stand for based on polling numbers and not based on actual beliefs. So I think that's a big problem. It's something I've realized in the last few election cycles, just because growing up, I knew that Democrats relied very heavily on the Jewish vote and the black vote and the female vote, all these different groups that they kind of just take for granted. And I think we should all kind of be aware that when they realize that they're losing out on those votes that they think that they just deserve every 4 years, they don't actually know how to react to that. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, when it comes to the Jewish vote, it's strange because people ask me and they think that there's going to be this monumental shift, right? It's only been 4 years, right? Every election is 4 years. So it's not going to be a monumental shift. However, I have seen a change, like I said, with multiple minority groups, Jewish Americans included. But I think if anything was going to open people's eyes, it would be October 7th. I think it's horrible we had to lose 1,200 innocent people for that to happen. I can't believe still that happened. I still can't sleep when I think of the imagery that I saw from that night. I know countless others share that viewpoint, especially Jews, of course, who know that they were targeted on that day for no reason except for their faith. So I think for me, it's been really sad realizing that happened and realizing that I genuinely believe that our foreign policy strategies are the reason that happened. I hate that I have to say this, but I think under Donald Trump, October 7th would not have occurred. I think that was a failure of this administration. And I hate the fact that I have to point to that in policy discussions because it's such an important personal matter as a Jew to know that happened. But the fact is, this is why your vote counts and this is why it matters. This is why the leadership that we put into place actually matters. This is why foreign policy strategies actually matter, because people's lives are at stake. And if you try to appease terrorists, this is what happens. There's nothing else left to say. If you want to stand with our ally and stand strong in the face of terrorist groups like Hamas or obviously Iran and their proxies. This would not have happened. If you choose to do the opposite, if you choose to pay money to Iran, pay ransom for American hostages, something that should not have been done, if you choose to lift sanctions, if you choose to appease Iran, this is what happens. It's so basic. I think a child would understand it. And the fact that it happened, we lost that many lives, and only now are we having a political discussion about the Jewish vote. It's sad and it's difficult, but the fact is now people understand their lives are actually at risk when the wrong leaders are chosen, and that's a conversation that has to be had.
Now, I remember just a handful of years ago, we were arguing, why didn't Donald Trump get the Nobel Peace Prize for bringing peace to the Middle East, which no other president has been able to do. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. They named the park after him. It was a totally different scenario. But now Joe Biden, who comes along and has all these great relationships with Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin, and who they're all scared of, has turned it into just let's say like a powder keg in various different areas, ready to explode. Elizabeth Pipko, listen, the McDonald's thing worked out really well. Did somebody get like a big bonus over there at the RNC? How did that come about? Because we talked about this ad nauseum, it seems, but it was Donald Trump had a mugshot. He was indicted 91 times. He was convicted 34 times. He was shot at almost twice. Yet it seems like the most monumental and the biggest election moment was him at the drive-thru handing out free French fries to people.
Our kids are going to study 2024 and not believe anything that they're reading, honestly.
Well, my kids are going to study it first because you're way younger, as you like to point out now 3 times. Yeah.
Fair. That was all you. I didn't say anything.
That's true.
But yeah, look, Donald Trump is the character that he was yesterday, right? That's who Donald Trump is. That's not what people think was a political strategy. That was Donald Trump's idea, right? That's who Donald Trump is. He thought it was a good idea. We obviously make sure we execute, and it happened because that's who Donald Trump, that's who President Trump is and always has been. That's the side of him that I get to see when I'm with him, right? And that's the side that I'm sad a lot of people don't get to see. But the fact is, every time the Democrats kind of have to huddle together and try to come up with some kind of strategy to beat their opponents, Donald Trump said some things, ooh, I should go to McDonald's because Kamala Harris claimed she worked there and she didn't, and this would be really fun. And it just happens because that's who he is. He's not a politician. He's not a born and bred politician who waits for advisors or polling or anything else to tell him what to do. He does what he thinks is best, what he thinks is funny, what he thinks the American people will relate to and appreciate, and that's what we saw on display yesterday. I thought him in the apron was one of the greatest images. Like you said, it's going to go down in American history. Yeah. Unfortunately, with that mugshot and with July 13th as well in Butler and the assassination attempt and so many other moments. But the fact is, all credit goes to Donald Trump. And I hope everyone enjoyed what they saw yesterday. The numbers outside McDonald's were amazing as well. I've never seen so many people just excited to see a man work the drive-thru at a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is who Donald Trump is, right? Yesterday is the epitome of A, who he is, and B, the kind of movement that he has and the love that he has behind him.
And so I just want to reiterate, because I know this and you know this, but everyone else doesn't know this. Elizabeth Pipko, spokesperson for the RNC, said Donald Trump's idea, or it was Donald Trump's idea to work the drive-thru. He said, let's do it. And you guys said, okay, and you made it happen.
Yes, most of the ideas that come from Team Trump actually come from the candidate himself. That's what makes him so different from all politicians before him. No polling, no focus groups, no should we go to Burger King instead, or the Taco Bell patron's going to be upset, are we going to ostracize anyone else? None of that. It was just, hey, we're going to go to McDonald's and we're going to do it. Listen, 14 days until Election Day. What does everybody need to do between now and then to make sure that we save our country? Like we said, make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you bank that vote as soon as you legally can. Make sure your friends and family members are doing the exact same thing. Make sure everyone knows where their polling location is. If you want help with that, or you want to help us, you can actually go to TrumpForce47.com. We're making sure that our Trump Force is out in full force. We are very excited, but we need your help. So make sure everyone you know has banked that vote before November 5th. Make sure your friends, your teachers, your relatives, your peers, your dog walker, I don't even know who else, everyone that you meet, make sure that they are registered to vote, that they bank that vote as soon as they legally can, and help us so that we can secure a victory and celebrate with all of you in 14 days. Elizabeth Pipko from the RNC, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you, and hopefully we can, well, let's chat again after the election and see how it all went. Sounds like a plan. Elizabeth Pipko from the RNC. That was very, very exciting. All right, so here's what we got going on, folks. This is what's happening when you this is what happens when you have a candidate that doesn't speak for themselves, doesn't make their own ideas be known. What happens is you have
all kinds of things that go wrong. Donald Trump says, I have an idea, let's execute it. Kamala Harris says, I want to run for president, you guys tell me what to do. And they pick Tim Walz when they shouldn't have picked Tim Walz. And they send her here and there, and they tell her not to answer questions. Probably the most damaging thing is not answering questions. And I saw a story just yesterday that made me, this is how bad it is for Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party. This is an article from The Hill. Let me make sure that I have it pulled up here. Here we go. Let's look at this article from The Hill. This is from The Hill by Harlan Ullman. It says, what? Hang on. Let me go back to where I was. Oh, this is just horrible. Hang on 1 second. Let me go. I don't know what happened to my whole system. This should be my screen that you're seeing. All right, hang on 1 second. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to very quickly try to fix this. Yeah, no, it's not working. All right, let me go back over here. Hang on. This is what happens when you're a one-man show, and this is the October surprise. A surprise, nothing seems to be working properly. All right, I don't know what's going on, but there it is. Oh, holy shnikes. All right, what if Joe Biden was the better candidate all along? It's anticlimactic now. What if Joe Biden was the better candidate all along? This is from The Hill. This is what The Hill is trying to tell you right now. What if Joe Biden was a better candidate all along? With the November 5th election just over a fortnight away, here is an intriguing thought experiment. By most accounts, the election is still a horse race too close to call. But although Vice President Kamala Harris quickly assumed the presidential mantle from Joe Biden and put in place an impressive startup, October has not been particularly kind to her. Donald Trump has closed the electoral gaps, and some believe he is actually leading. Now, when they say some believe he's actually leading, he's actually leading. I mean, that's what's happening. Donald Trump is in the lead in this election. And so what you're starting to see is that you have the Democrats thinking backwards and going, where did we go wrong? We thought Kamala was the bee's knees. Maybe Kamala Harris is not the perfect candidate. Maybe she's not the one that we thought was going to be able to Donald Trump. Maybe beat Donald Trump. Maybe the joy and the enthusiasm for Kamala Harris is not there. And that is something that they're starting to, they're panicking. For The Hill to come out with 2 weeks left in the election and say, what if Joe Biden was the better candidate all along? That is damaging. That is damning. That is the end. That is the end for Kamala Harris. Once you start having op-eds about, maybe we made the wrong choice, you're not going to inspire a lot of voter confidence. You're not going to get all these early voters going out and excited to vote for somebody who maybe wasn't the best candidate all along, who maybe was a mistake. Basically, you know what they're saying here? They're saying Kamala was a mistake. What if Joe Biden was the better candidate? That's a mistake. But we can't, it's too late. We can't go back and do anything now. There's only 14 more days. She's already on that. People are already voting for her. Some people. Not a lot, not as many as they'd like, but some people are actually voting for her. And with that result, they're not really sure. They're not really sure where they went wrong. And could Joe Biden have made a run against Donald Trump? Probably not. Probably not, because it's not necessarily just the person. It's also the campaign. It's also the way people are treated. It's also the information and the energy. And there's a big energy deficit in the Kamala Harris campaign. Part of it is because she doesn't take questions. In fact, Maria Shriver at this event yesterday was instructing the crowd, and they caught it on camera. And listen to what she said about, somebody said, hey, can we ask questions of the vice president?
You're not, unfortunately. We have some predetermined questions, and hopefully I'll be able to ask some of the questions that might be in your head. I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully what she's going to do is she's going to be a mind reader. And what she's going to do is she's going to go ahead and ask the questions that are in your head for you, so you don't need to worry about it. And then, but you can't ask Kamala Harris any questions whatsoever. There's no questions for the candidate. That's not something that we're going to allow to happen. And I'm still trying to, I'm still trying to get myself back. And I don't know what, I had like a major meltdown today on the computer. Let me see if I delete that, if that works. That probably made things worse. Anyway, that's what's going on with the Kamala Harris campaign. She doesn't know what's going on. Nobody knows how to control it, and they can't stop Donald Trump's momentum from working at McDonald's. One of the craziest campaign things to ever happen. But it's not just that. It's their constant attacking of groups that they should be embracing. Again, like Christians, which Donald Trump talked about yesterday at his event.
Under Kamala Harris, you've seen the...
I don't even know what's going. Hang on, where am I going? Here, let's try this again.
Department of Justice target parents at school board meetings. Have you ever seen anything like it? They're like the enemy. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. These great people, they just want their children to be treated reasonably well. And the FBI would send spies into Catholic churches. I don't know how many Catholics are here, but if you're Catholic, there is no way you can be voting for these people. These people are a nightmare. I don't know what they have against Catholics, but Catholics are treated worse.
Well, now what happened? Come on. What is going on? Is Mercury in retrograde or something like that? Is that what's happening here? I don't even, Donald Trump was here. Don't interrupt the man when he's talking. Anyway, he had a message to all Christians.
So I'm here tonight to deliver a simple message to Christians across America. It's time to stand up and save your country.
Yeah. Fight, fight, fight. Bring back your country. Now, I don't know. By the way, I'm going to have to Control-Alt-Delete this biatch, so I don't know how much longer. I don't know how much longer I'm going to last. But there is something very important that I wanted to mention because this is happening. You know, we are very close to Election Day. We are 14 days away. And what we're starting to see is that there are announcements being made and things going on and polls coming out that just seem very deceptive. They just seem like maybe that's not the way things should be going. And it seems like they're only going that way because potentially the Democrats know that they're cooked. They know that they're toast. They know that Kamala Harris is done. She's mentally exhausted. She's physically ill-equipped to handle this. She doesn't have the stamina. She doesn't have the insight. She doesn't have the knowledge. She doesn't have the support. And she's dragging the entire campaign and the Democrat Party down with her. So now things are starting to happen and things are being reported that I'll be honest with you, I can't believe, don't want to believe, can't corroborate, or am very skeptical of. And one of them was this CNN poll that came out yesterday, which I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen this anywhere else. CNN's the only one reporting this. Listen to this new update from CNN's internal election polling.
Because we've seen so many groups this year moving in Donald Trump's direction. So you would think his core group, his base of support would be doing the same. But in fact, it's moving a little bit away from him. So this is Trump's margin with non-college white voters. Unlike most voting blocs, this group is not moving towards him. It's actually moving slightly away. So you go back 8 years ago, he won him by 33. You go back 4 years ago, he won him by 31. Now what we look is we see that in the latest average of polls, he's only up by 27. Now that may not seem like a lot, but given that we're seeing these double-digit gains, say among black voters or among Hispanic voters in some of the polls, the fact that we're seeing this core group of supporters actually moving away from him, not just off of the 2016 baseline, but the 2020 baseline as well, I think that's a rather interesting development.
Shrinkage, as Donald Trump might say, based on what he said the last few days.
Oh, he's referencing the Arnold Palmer story, which I'm supposedly not allowed to talk about anymore because people were annoyed how much I talked about Arnold Palmer's dingling yesterday. Anyway, so here's what they're reporting. Here's what CNN is reporting. They're reporting that Donald Trump's margin with non-college white voters, which is his base, that's the MAGA faithful, non-college white voters. They're saying that those numbers are down from 2016 to 2020 to 24. Look at this. Donald Trump had 33% or 33 points, 31 points he was up in non-college white voters. Now he's only up by plus 27. He's only up plus 27. And they're like, oh, he's only up plus 27. This is a big danger. This is a big red flag for Donald Trump. But listen to the end, and then I'll point out why this is the biggest piece of BS propaganda I've ever seen, even from a place like CNN Watch.
Why could even a small difference with this group matter?
Why can a small difference with this group matter? Because look at what percentage of the electorate that they make up. So we can look nationally, right? Look at this. Non-college white voters make up 40% of the electorate. That's more than college whites at 29%. All other groups, voters of color at 28%. So this is something that we've seen throughout the board, right? Which is that Donald Trump is making huge gains with groups that make up a smaller percentage of the electorate while he's losing a little bit. But these groups that he's losing a little bit of make up a much larger portion of the electorate. But more than that, you know, we're talking about the US of A where they make up 40%. Why don't you go to those key Great Lake battleground states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin? They have outsized import in those Great Lake battleground states. Non-college white voters, look at this. They make up the slim majority of voters at 51%, way more than college whites at 30%, way more than all other voters at 16%. So if you're seeing movement in the Great Lake battleground states among non-college whites, that could be a very big development, John.
By the way, it's weird to me to hear someone call them college whites. It just seems like, hey, look at these college whites. Donald Trump's, the college whites are here, but the non-college, it just seems, I don't know, it just seems like there's a better, maybe throw the word voters on there. White vote, it just seems a little weird when he says that. But look, here's the thing that you need to really realize. Here's where the lying and the betrayal comes in on the part of CNN.
Seeing movement in the battleground states among non-college whites?
Nothing quite like a leading question, my dear friend. Yes, we are. We're seeing the same pattern in the Great Lake battleground states that we're seeing nationally. That is small movement among non-college white voters. Again, you see it back in 2016, Donald Trump won him by 25. You see a small movement in 2020, Donald Trump winning him by 22. And look at that, what we are today. Again, Trump is ahead, but his margins are smaller. And when you have a shrinking margin for Donald Trump among his core group that makes up the majority of voters, it can make up for big shifts among smaller groups of the electorate. And this is why Kamala Harris is still in the ball game right now. It's because even though she's losing big league among groups that make up a small portion of the electorate, and she's making it up among groups that make up a big portion of the electorate, even if the movements are small. But it's
okay. So what they're basically, let me sum this up for you. What CNN's trying to sell people is that while Kamala Harris is losing big league with the voters that typically vote for Democrats, like Latinos, like black voters, while she's losing big league with those very important minority groups that the Democrats have counted on for years, she's actually drawing away non-college white voters who make up Donald Trump's base. CNN wants you to believe that not only are black voters and Latino voters abandoning the Democrat ship, but that while that's happening, some college white voters, or non-college white voters rather, are saying, you know what? Kamala Harris looks pretty good to us. We're all about an open border and abortion. We're all about joy. We're all about sending all of our hard-earned money. We don't care about these inflation prices or gas prices. That's what they're trying to tell you. They're trying to convince you that the MAGA faithful, the red hat wearing MAGA faithful, the same people that walked peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol building on January 6th to let their voices be heard. Those same people have abandoned Donald Trump in Wisconsin, in Michigan, and in Pennsylvania, and they're now voting for Kamala Harris. That's what they're trying to get you to believe. But here, I want you to take a look at this really quickly. If you'll notice these point values, the poll on the left from 2016 says Donald Trump plus 25 points. You'll notice that says November 2016. When you look at Trump in 2020, plus 22 points, it also says November 2020. And when you look at Donald Trump on the last slide where they have him at plus 19, where they're all just sweating with glee. They're all just enamored. They're like as excited as Joe Biden in an ice cream shop. These guys are just they can't believe it. They're so excited by this new poll that they've created. But if you look at that, it says clearly not November 2024, but October 2024. What CNN has done with this poll, it's not very interesting. What CNN has done with this poll is they've taken election results and compared them to pre-election polling. These are the election results. 20 plus 25 points with non-college whites in these Great Lakes states. That's the election result. November 2020, plus 22 points in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin with non-college educated white voters. Those are the election results. And since they don't have election results yet, they can only go with the poll. And they're saying, oh, Donald Trump is way behind. That's because the election hasn't happened yet. Wait, and if you compare these numbers from November to November to November, it's going to be totally different. But CNN is grasping at any potential straw they have. They're looking for any silver lining to the deep, dark cloud that is hanging over the Kamala Harris campaign. They're looking for some glimmer of hope in a hopelessness that is the 2024 presidential election for Democrats. They have no enthusiasm on their side. They have no ground game on their side. Their candidate is a blithering moron at times. Their vice presidential candidate is one of the weirdest people to ever walk the face of the earth. And now you've got all these people saying, hey, wait a minute. What if Joe Biden was the better candidate? What if Joe Biden was the one what if Joe Biden could have won this election for us and we all bet on Kamala Harris? I'll tell you this, if you're Kamala Harris and your own party is saying, you know, maybe Joe Biden's better for us than she is, it's over. It's over. Your political campaign is over. Your career is over. I hope Doug's got a good job because he's going to need it after this. And Joe Biden, by the way, look, there's still, I don't know why this keeps happening. There's still, 19. Oh, he's got 4 years from now. He's got another chance at it. In 4 years from right now, Joe Biden can also run again, and he'll only be 85 years old. So that's definitely something for the Democrats to think about. There was a big article that came out today that there are 3 states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Michigan, that have now announced that they will not be ready on election night. 3 crucial swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia, announcing to the entire world, we're not going to have your election results on election night. On November the 5th, you're not going to know who won our states, our electoral votes, and then that will probably affect your knowledge of who won the actual election. And they just announced it to everybody. Now, a lot of folks immediately started pointing fingers going, why? So you can bring in fake ballots? Why? So you can cheat again? Why? Why can't you count your votes? And it's a great question because if you look at the map, which hopefully I can pull up the map, hopefully I can pull up the map. Maybe I don't even know I should probably just end. Speaking of ending my career, the map is not pulling up either. So that's fun. Let me go back here. Oh, you're kidding. I don't know why no button works. I guess maybe I missed a software update. Or, I don't know, maybe I missed a software update or I missed some kind of download. Maybe I haven't Control-Alt-Deleted. Maybe my Wi-Fi got hacked by the Russians. Oh, look at that. Thank God. Holy cow. Somebody remind me at least once a month to reboot everything, check for updates, unplug my system, and hit Control-Alt-Delete. Okay, so let's reset this map here real quick. So you've got Pennsylvania, you've got Georgia, and you've got Michigan. And those 3 states have now announced we're not going to be ready on election day. And the winner of the election needs 270 electoral votes to, win the election. So let's take those 3 states out of it, but let's give Donald Trump North Carolina because we feel confident that Donald Trump's going to win North Carolina. Let's give him Georgia because we feel confident that Donald Trump's going to win. I'm sorry, Georgia's not going to be ready. Hold on, let me reset that. All right, so you've got North Carolina, you've got Arizona, Nevada, and Wisconsin. These 3 remaining states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, these are the 3 states that have announced we will not be ready come election day. It may take a day or 2 or 3 or 4, which means that if Donald Trump wins every other swing state with the exception of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, then he still won't have the requisite 270 electoral votes. He'll only have 262. The good news is Kamala Harris won't have anywhere near 270, so we can chillax a little bit. But it doesn't mean that on election night, we still can't find a winner because Donald Trump is just 8 votes shy, and there's a couple of different ways for him to get those 8 votes. So he could, for example, flip a state that is considered purple, and those states include Virginia, where Glenn Youngkin, the governor, is very popular, and where Donald Trump is polling very close, and where there are a lot of Republicans in a lot of tight races who could move the needle, especially because Virginia has not just a lot of folks around D.C., but a lot of rural, constituents far and wide. And they do have a large population of voters who have been abandoning Kamala Harris and coming over to the Democrat side, which would mean Donald Trump gets 275 electoral votes and he wins the popular vote. He wins the Electoral College on election night. And it doesn't matter how long it takes Georgia, Pennsylvania, or Michigan. Now, it doesn't have to be Virginia, though. Virginia could still go to Kamala Harris. Donald Trump, let's look around. Oh, there's Minnesota. Minnesota, home of Tim Walz, Low T Tim, Tampon Tim. If Donald Trump can flip Minnesota to red, that gives him 272 electoral votes on election night, and that's plenty. That's all you need. You only need the 270. Now, a lot of people are saying, could Minnesota flip to red? Minnesota's about as purple a state as they make. Minnesota has always been winner by the slimmest majority, the slimmest of margins. When Stuart Smalley ran for Senate, it was by a slim majority going into the middle of the night. Everybody thought that the Republicans were going to take it. And keep in mind, the folks in Minnesota know Tim Walz the best. And if the folks in Minnesota know Tim Walz the best, they're probably the least likely to vote for the guy, especially after everything. I mean, if you're in Minnesota, if you're a Minnesotan, if you're like, man, I love this state, and all of a sudden Tampon Tim bursts on the international scene and he's everybody's introduction to Minnesota, he's your spokesperson, you're 100% not going to want any part of that. So you might actually vote for Donald Trump. Plus, the people in Minnesota are suffering just like everybody else is. It only takes one other state. Now, we could wait. We could wait around until the election's over and see what happens. But look here. If Donald Trump wins North Carolina and eventually Georgia and Arizona and Nevada, he's at 268. And then it just takes one of those three blue wall states. If it's Kamala Harris, if it's election night and Donald Trump grabs those states, Kamala Harris needs to run the table if we give Donald Trump Wisconsin, she needs to get both Michigan and Pennsylvania, and that will only get her to 260. She would also need Georgia, which is a tough sell at this point, or she would need Arizona. Again, another tough sell. So not being able to report your votes on election night, I believe, hinders the Democrat Party and Kamala Harris more than it does anybody else. Anyway, these fake news polls are going to start coming out fast and furious. These announcements from these campaigns or these states about how they're not going to be able to determine the winner on election night, that's going to be coming out. And look, and I know a lot of people are like, well, why are you even having a party now, Mark? If we're not going to see the results on election night, we're still having a party because we like to party. And our election night party is happening on November the 5th. It's a Tuesday. And we have sold out all 5 of our VIP tables. All 5 tables. They went like that in one day. We had 5 VIP experiences. They're all gone. We're so excited for all of those people, but there's plenty of room. We're holding this at Sneakers. And again, I'm going to try to screen share, but it's not going to let me. We're holding it at Sneakers in Sports Grill in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. And the place is humongous. There's so many tables. There's a massive bar in the middle of it. There's not really a bad seat in the house. And if you can come by, it's open. All you have to do is show up. You take care of your own drinks and your food, but we're going to be broadcasting live streaming the entire night. We're going to be there when the election results come in. They may not all come in, but when a state gets called for Donald Trump, we will be there in spirit and we will cheer as loud as we possibly can. And we will keep broadcasting and keep going until the cops tell us, time to shut it down. Get out of here. Go home. It's going to be a fantastic night. Best thing to do is go to our Facebook page. And while you're on our Facebook page, there's a whole event section. You can click on it. You can look on it. You can do all those great things and check out the watch night party that we're having in Jacksonville Beach at Sneakers Sports Grill. And we would love as many people as possible to come. Now, if you're not in the Jacksonville Beach area, no problem, because we're live streaming it and you can get it anywhere in the entire world. Wherever you have internet access, you'll be able to see our live stream. So that's something that I'm really excited about as well. Before we dip out, we've had an abundance of generousness. Look at this. Farm Life 2012 on Rumble dropped a $50 Rumble rant, which is great because I'm going to need to buy a new computer. My 10-year-old loves your show. You are the only political talker my husband will listen to full time. You make things funny and comprehensive for all, and your merch Y'all buy the books, Loved Untold Story of Christmas, which will be going on sale very soon, probably in November. We'll get those books out. But thank you so much, man. That is a very Farm Life 2012. That is a very generous Rumble rant, and we definitely do appreciate it very, very much. We had a Rumble rant at the beginning of the, it was a $5 little dough to start your show. So we appreciate that one as well. On YouTube, we got Christiane Haggerty, who dropped us $5 super chat, which is great because I'm about to head in the car and go to Mar-a-Lago. I'll use that for gas money, as well as Jennifer Lawson, who wrote, please explain the difference of a democracy versus what we are, a constitutional republic. We've done that a lot. I'll do that. And again, look at this. Look, everything is just totally crap. It's like, I guess the Democrats got a hold of I'm going to have to, I'll take some time before the next broadcast to make sure that everything's straightened out. $20 super chat, Jennifer Lawson. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then, Cesar Garcia, look at this. He sent a super sticker, which we get a little description of. Pear character lying on the side, raising his arm while saying, how's it going? Cesar, thank you so much. I'm going to go look at that on YouTube. Listen, I got to get out of here. We've got so much to get to. I've got to get down to Mar-a-Lago now. I'll be live doing the show tomorrow from Patriot Outpost Whiskey Papa. Patriot Outpost Whiskey Papa. We'll have all the technical difficulties hopefully fixed as well. And on tomorrow night, I'll be at Mar-a-Lago for the premiere, the red carpet premiere of A Line in the Sand with a lot of big conservative bigwigs. I'm going to try to get you as many interviews as we possibly can. Thank you to Elizabeth Pipko from the RNC for coming in. If you've early voted, fantastic. If you haven't early voted, please early vote. Dominating the early vote is how we're going to dominate this election. Winning the early vote is how we're going to win this election. And winning this election and getting Donald Trump back to the White House where he belongs, you know the thing. That's how we will all save the republic. I am going to go